God has already spoken over your love story, the one you call impossible, the one people told you to let go of, the one you still carry in silence because you're ashamed to admit you haven't been able to move on. This video is his answer, and it arrived at exactly the right time. There is something very strange about the silence in a love story that feels impossible. It isn't light, it isn't empty, it weighs on you. It has texture. It shows up with full force at specific hours, usually at night, usually the moment you finally stopped keeping yourself busy. And the world has a very quick interpretation for that silence. It means it's over. It means you should have moved on. It means the absence of movement is the answer you've been avoiding. But you can't fully accept that interpretation. Not because you're naive, not because you're in denial, but because something inside you doesn't settle with that explanation. A resistance that isn't stubbornness, it's perception. You sense that the silence has something inside it you haven't been able to see yet, and you are right to distrust the nothing. Because there is a kind of silence that is absence, and there is a kind of silence that is gestation, the kind that comes before everything that is about to be born. The difference between the two isn't in the noise they make, it's in what you feel while you carry them. The question this video came to answer isn't, will they come back? The question is, what is God doing in this story right now, while you can't see anything? There is a passage in the book of Job that most people skip because it seems too technical. It's in chapter 23, verses 8 and 9. Job is in the middle of his most devastating experience. He's lost everything. He understands nothing, and he's trying to find God just to have a conversation. He says, "If I go to the east, he is not there. If I go to the west, I do not find him. When he is at work in the north, I do not see him. When he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him." 4 directions, God visible in none of them. But what Job says in the very next verse changes everything. "But he knows the way that I take. I don't see him, but he sees me. I can't find him, but he knows exactly where I am." That isn't resignation. That is the most precise description of what happens in a love story that is in God's hands and hasn't manifested yet. You look in every direction at your phone, at the signs, at the other person's behavior, and you see no movement. But God knows the path this story is walking. Even when you can't see anything, he hasn't lost the thread. This isn't a way of saying, just hang in there and stop complaining. It's a way of saying that invisible is not the same as non-existent, and that there is a radical difference between God being absent and God working behind the scenes. The invisible has weight, it has direction, it has intention. And your love story, in this silence you don't know how to interpret, may be being worked on in ways no action of yours could produce. If you could see, just for a second, what is happening behind the scenes of your story while everything looks still, what do you think you would see? Hold on to that question. It will have a different answer by the end of this video. But for now, let's talk about what Scripture and the real experience of people show us that God does during this period that feels silent. The first thing he does is work inside the other person in a way no conversation of yours could have reached. There are things that only time and absence reveal. There are realizations that only come when the noise stops. You don't have access to that process, but it is happening. The change that needs to occur inside another person for an impossible love to become possible doesn't come from persuasion. It comes from an internal process, and that process runs on God's timeline, not yours. The second thing he does is work inside you. This is the hardest one to accept because it implies that you needed to change too, not because you are the problem, but because the love that is coming needs to find a version of you that won't destroy it through anxiety, through control, through fear dressed up as love. The silence isn't punishing you. It's forming you. The third thing, and this is the one that unsettles people the most, is that he may be working in external circumstances that seem to have nothing to do with your love story. A move to a new city, a shift in your career, a crisis that realigns priorities, things that seem completely separate from your story, but that, later on, you'll look back on and see the thread that ran through all of it. There is a minor prophet in the Bible named Habakkuk who asks the most human question that exists, right in the first verse of chapter 1. "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" That isn't a lack of faith, that is an excess of pain. And God does not rebuke Habakkuk for asking that question. He answers. But the answer, in chapter 2, is unsettling in its honesty. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. Though it linger, God didn't promise speed. He promised certainty. Certainty. And here is what no one talks about during the period when nothing seems to be happening. It has a specific function that hurry would destroy. There are things that only form slowly. There are internal changes in you, in the other person, in the circumstances that need time to consolidate before they become visible. If God showed you the result before the process was complete, the result wouldn't hold. The silence isn't passive waiting, it's active formation in slow motion. That doesn't make the pain easy to carry, but it transforms the meaning of it. And meaning is what keeps us whole while we wait. What makes a difference in this season isn't trying to force movement where God is still preparing the ground. It's asking yourself, honestly, what can I do today that isn't trying to control the outcome, but is continuing to become who I need to be? Remember that silence from the beginning, the one you were carrying before you pressed play on this video? Now look at it again. With everything you've just heard, that same silence still weighs on you. But it used to weigh like abandonment. Now it starts to weigh like something else, like the weight of something being built where you don't have vision yet. There is a moment, and anyone who has been through a restoration that seemed impossible recognizes it when you describe it, when the silence changes in quality. It isn't that something spectacular suddenly happens, it's more subtle than that. And it's precisely because it's subtle that it tends to go unnoticed by someone too exhausted to catch what is small. In the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 11, there is an image that describes this moment better than any analysis could. See, the winter is past, the rains are over and gone. It isn't spring yet, it's just the end of winter. The ground is still damp, but something has shifted in the quality of the air, and whoever is paying attention feels it before they can name it. Someone who listens to this channel sent me a message I need to share here because it describes this moment better than I ever could. They said they went 7 months with no contact at all with the person they loved. 7 months of complete silence, no message, no sign, nothing. The people around them had declared it over long ago. Their family had stopped asking. Their friends had stopped mentioning the name. It was as if everyone, by unspoken agreement, had decided that chapter was closed. They said they woke up on an ordinary Monday, no special date, nothing different about the day, and realized they had slept without dreaming about that person for the first time in months. It wasn't immediate relief, it was strangeness, like when you've had a headache for so long that when it finally lifts, you notice the quiet before you notice the relief. There is something many people carry without being able to name it, the feeling that they are waiting for a love they're no longer sure they're allowed to want. If that stirred something inside you, I put together something special with all my heart to help you walk this path with more clarity and spiritual grounding. It's available in the first pinned comment below this video. If it's meant for you, you will know. They lay there looking at the ceiling thinking, what changed? They couldn't answer, but something was different. Not in the situation, nothing there had changed. Different inside them. 3 weeks later, without them having done a single thing, the other person reached out, not with grand declarations, with something small, a simple, almost casual question. But it opened a conversation, which opened a door, which, months later, opened a story completely different from the one that had ended. They didn't write to me to say, just wait and they'll come back. They wrote to say the sign wasn't their message. The sign was that Monday morning when I woke up different. The message only confirmed what my spirit had already sensed first. That is what I want you to hold on to. The real signs of that shift don't happen out there first. They happen inside you. You notice you went through an entire day without the situation consuming every available thought. You go to sleep and wake up without that immediate weight in your chest that used to arrive before you even remembered what was happening. A conversation about the situation comes up, and you realize you can talk about it with a clarity you didn't have before, without falling apart, without performing a strength that isn't there. That isn't indifference, that is maturity. If something in these words is reaching a part of you that has been quietly waiting for direction, there is a little more waiting for you in the first pinned comment. The distinction that matters is this: real signs don't make you more anxious, they make you more still. As if something inside you said, "Okay, I see it," without needing to immediately do anything about it. You don't need to monitor your love story, looking for these signs. When they come, you'll recognize them, because they won't stir you up. They will, strangely, settle you down. That is winter passing. It isn't summer yet, but it's no longer the cold it was before. At the beginning, I asked you, if you could see, just for a second, what is happening behind the scenes of your story right now, what do you think you would see? Let me tell you what people who have already been on the other side of this waiting describe when they look back. They see that the silence wasn't empty, it was dense. Every day, without an answer, was serving a purpose they had no words for, while they were still inside it. They see internal changes in themselves that would never have happened if the outcome had come earlier. They see the other person differently, not because time passes and people change at random, but because something specific was worked through in that season that looked dead. And they all describe one thing in common: gratitude for the silence. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because what God did in that season, invisible, unannounced, unconfirmed, was exactly what that love needed to become something that could last. You are in that silence right now, and you have no way of seeing what is being done inside it, but He knows the path you are walking, even when you can't find Him in any of the four directions. That isn't resignation. It is the most honest faith there is, the kind that stays standing not because it sees, but because it recognizes the hand of God even in what hasn't taken shape yet. If this video found you today, it found you because the silence in your story still has something inside it, and you needed to hear this. If you are tired of carrying this weight alone, tired of not knowing whether to hold on or let go, whether what you feel is faith or fear, whether the love you want is even possible for someone like you, I want you to know that this confusion has a name, and it has a way through. The guide, How to Attract and Recognize True Love, was created for exactly this moment, when your heart is willing, but the path is still unclear. It is in the first pinned comment below. And if God placed it in your hands today, it was not by accident. In the comments, tell me just one thing. Which season are you in? Does the silence still hurt, or are you starting to feel a shift in the quality of it? I want to know where you are in this story. Because you are not in this silence alone. If this content has been making a difference in your journey, and if you believe it deserves to reach more people, you can support this channel in a very simple way. Just click the thanks button right below this video and make a donation. Any contribution, no matter how small, goes a long way toward keeping this space alive. And even if you can't right now, your presence here is already an incredible gift. Thank you so much for being here.